Hi guys, welcome to another video. Bowling analysis video. So today we're now looking at the under 18 masters for the Singapore National Youth Championship 2022. And yeah, so they're just throwing their practice throws. I think this camera is switched off. And it's now the semi-finals for both the boys and girls. So having their practice shots. So rather than focusing on their physical game, I'll probably just comment on the action, like the choices they take, the lines they play, more or less the strategic play for the semi-finals as well as the finals. And we'll wait for their practice throws to finish before we comment on the actual match itself. So maybe a quick shout out to some of the Bowling and Science boys, Bowling and Science Academy boys as well. I watched the quarterfinals before I started the recording, and it was quite brutal. It's because I think 4 of the BIS boys actually made it into the top 8, but all 4 of them were matched up against each other. So that means the BIS boys had to eliminate their fellow academy mates and fellow friends away from the competition, since this is a knockout step ladder. And then now coming into the semi-finals, 2 of the other BIS boys are again matched up against each other. So they will have to knock. I'm not too sure. Just waiting for this camera to be repositioned. Okay, I guess not. They're not matched up against each other. So they will have Avril, I think, from Foundation Bowling, which is headed by Coach Michael Lee, going against Jovis from BIS, and I think this is Jaden from BIS going against forgot his name. I forgot his name. I mean, his name will show later, but what's his name? Peter Cole, going against Peter Cole from no particular academy, but his I can't remember the name of his coach as well. I mean, I know his face, but his name just doesn't come to me for a moment. So yeah, the BIS boys eliminated their fellow competitors from the quarterfinals, but 2 of them made it to the semi-finals. So if either of them wins, at least one of them will make it to the finals. Which is then I mean, just also to show the strength of two-handed bowling, is that maybe it's just, I think, coincidence as well, because out of the top 4 finalists here in the semi-finals, 3 of them are two-handers. Peter Cole, Jaden, as well as Jovis are all two-handers. We only have the one-hander, which is Avril here. But then again, the one-handers were also matched up against each other in the quarterfinals. So they also had to eliminate each other. So maybe it's really down to chance, right? So I think it's just down to luck that it doesn't goes to show that like two-handers are superior, but it just goes to just the luck of the draw that maybe one-handers eliminate each other, so then the two-handers are left, because the two-handers also are eliminating each other in the quarterfinals as well. So really hard to say. But obviously most of the females here, semi-finalists and finalists, I think all of them are one-handed, so none of the two-handed girls actually made it.
Alright, bowlers, once the pins are set, you may commence with your 2 games semi-final. Wishing you good luck, good game and high scores.
back, and the match has gone underway. So this should be, I think, pattern B, if I'm not wrong. And I should have analyzed pattern B in a previous recording. So I think so the lanes are not fresh, obviously, because previously they've booked. So how I think this format works, maybe I want to mute the recording. How the format works is that here, obviously you have the top 16 finalists that goes into the Masters, and sorry, I think it's top 32 or something, and then the top 16 go into match play. So the top 32 has actually played their Masters beforehand. Looking at the so-called the schedule here. So you can see here that they both the under 18 Masters in the morning, and then the top 16 goes for match play, and there's no lane maintenance in between, right? So these lanes are typically broken down lanes. However, I'm not sure whether the lanes are like booked by boys or booked by the ladies beforehand. Because if it's booked by boys, the breakdown will be different. The lane breakdown will be different as when it's booked by ladies, because they're all playing different lines and the ref rate of the boys are different as well. So generally speaking, okay, if we were to try and judge the ideal line for the boys here, a lot of them are playing a bit of a tighter line. Like earlier we saw Jaden from BIS strike there. He was playing something like this, a bit of a tighter line. Then, as I mentioned before, when I analyzed the so-called the qualifier, I think the qualifier for the youth, was it youth division or under 18 division? For pattern B, right, there's not a lot of misroom to the right, and your ideal breakpoint should not be further than like board 9. Like board 9 to board 10 should be the furthest right your ball should go, and should be the breakpoint before you let it hook back into the pocket. So you have to play a relatively tight line. Like you can't send your ball out to like board 5 and expect it to come back. So yeah, then for Jovis here, he actually played a little bit too tight a line. He's sending the ball straight down, like to like board maybe 7 or 8 at the breakpoint, and that's simply not enough, right? His ball actually overhooked. So you have to actually send the ball a little bit to the inside. You have to play the center part of the lane around the 4th arrow in order to get a decent line. So Jovis actually struck again, and his opponent is Peter Cole. So Peter should be playing similar line, just send it a little bit too far to the right, and the ball didn't come back to the pocket. Avriel himself has a very unique form. So Avriel actually, his physical game wise, he actually has a backswing that like swings to the outside. So in my opinion, that's actually limiting his potential, because of that backswing, he has to actually play a decently straight line. It's actually more difficult for him to play inside out lines. I'm actually doing pretty good here. So I can't really see his line from our angle here, but I'm supposing the ideal line should be the same for both 1 and 2 handers. We will play somewhere in the 4th arrow, send the ball out through the 4th arrow zone, going out to around boards 10 or 9 at the breakpoint, then let your ball transition and then let it hook back into the pocket. That should be the ideal line for the boys. So obviously there's a cross lane spare, so it won't be playing that line. Okay, let's see if actually Jaden gets another strike again, because Jaden is doing well now right now. Too far to the right? Nope. Actually, it's a solid pocket shot. It has a ringing pin 10. And let's see if Peter gets his line. Yep, so Peter is playing the 4th arrow as well, just like what I predicted. But I think he still missed it a little bit to the left, so he didn't manage to send the ball far enough to the right to his ideal breakpoint. But should be actually playing like in between, like close to 4th arrow, maybe boards 19 at the arrow zone. like just one board beside of the fourth arrow, and then targeting board 10 at the breakpoint, and then having the ball transition and hook back into the pocket. That should be the ideal line for the boys. Because even though I think there's quite a lot of people have played on these lanes, they still play pretty much similar to Fresh. It is a spare shot. Ah, doesn't get it. Okay, that is a difficult spare for a two-hander actually, especially if your spare ball is with that kind of rotation that makes it hook. It's going to be difficult because you actually want your spare ball to deflect if you are going to convert that baby split. Okay, and Averill converts his split here. Oh, sorry, his pin 10 spare here. Yeah. So still early, so-called like midway through the games, and it's very tight competition here between the boys. Scores are still pretty close. Like no one is doing exceptionally big mistakes, but nobody's like striking too much as well. So for Jaden actually goes for a slightly different line. He doesn't play as deep as Peter there. He goes for his arrow target is like in between the third and fourth arrow. So probably like 17 at the arrows. And then he actually lets it transition and then it goes in. Yeah, Jovis gets a pretty lucky strike there. And let's see if Peter can get a strike from this shot. Looks good. Looks good. Oh, ring 10. Okay, so let's switch over, take a look at the girls. So for the girls, the ideal line is obviously more to the right. So because the allowance zone for this pattern B is around boards 10 to 13, so I expect the girls to play in that particular zone. That means to send their ball straight down either second arrow or maybe a little bit inside out from like 13 to board 10 at the breakpoint, and then have the ball transition a little bit and then hook back into the pocket. Yeah, that's not too well done. So this transition should be a bit straighter and then hook back into the pocket. So that should be the ideal line for the girls. So we have Chia Jing Wen, or I can't see her full name, but against Rachel Ong, and Natalie Ong against Ong Li Lin here. Okay, that's right. I didn't pay attention to the line that she was playing. So for Natalie, bowling pretty straight down line, pretty conservative line, like what I've explained before. That one possible line is that they just go straight down 10 arrow, because that the second arrow, the 10, because the 10 board is still technically in the allowance zone. So if she misses to the left, she will have allowance there to miss to the left and still hit the head pin at least. Ah, okay, so Rachel is actually a left-hander. Okay, so Rachel has to play the outside part of the lane. So for left-hander like Rachel, she should be playing ideally the lines. Also in the same zone, I believe. Second arrow straight down, or maybe second arrow straight down and then let the ball transition here and then let the ball hook into the pocket. So it should be pretty straightforward line for Rachel. It's just up to her execution because there are not that many lefties in this competition, I think. But in this case, obviously it's a spare shot. So see how Rachel does on the left lane. Spare shot going to go cross lane. I think this is a guaranteed spare, pretty well executed. Just happy about it. Coaches are happy about it. And only Lin here. Let's see if she plays the more inside out line. That means like 13 to 10, or she goes for board 10 straight down. About pretty tight. I think that's like a 11-10. It's pretty tight, or like a 12-11 or something like that. Pretty tight zone. So pretty tight zone, pretty straight down line, pretty direct, like something like this. I think it was like 12 to 11. Then obviously breakpoint is at board 10 and then hooks back into the pocket. Oh wow! So between Natalie and Ong Lin, I think Ong Lin is leading with a double there. So whoa, she's leading with 4 bagger. So yeah, she's way in the lead there. So if she strikes she's gonna go into the finals if she strikes on the first shot of frame 10. Whereby between I think can't see a full between Rachel and Chia Jing Wen, I guess it's still a pretty close match. Yep, so Rachel sends it down, second arrow. Okay, gets a strike. So pretty straightforward line for Rachel. That should be a bread and butter line. Like the second arrow straight down line should be something that all left-handers always practice on. Oh, she misses to the right. Natalie misses to the right a little bit. You can see that her shot deviated from that red line that I drew down on that lane. So she missed a little bit to the right, so it went a little bit too far on the break point, like bots 8 or 9, and they couldn't recover enough to kick out the pin 7. It's still a decent result for her though, but I think yeah, only Lin actually has won the match already because she's managed to convert her pin 10. So she will end the game with like a 234 if she strikes out. So that shuts out Natalie. So Lin goes to the finals. Okay. Chia Jing Qian. Okay. Now I see a full name. So Chia Jing Qian, she has a strike there. Still quite close for the girls on the left lane. If we go back to the boys, let's see if the match has settled for the boys. Okay, so the last frame for Peter as well as Jaden. Jaden's in the lead with a double. Oh, so is that a turkey? Yeah, actually Jaden's in the lead with a turkey. So it's up by at least about 20 pins. Just a quick estimate. I'm not that great at calculating pinfalls. But between Averill and Jovis, still rather close. Jovis is in the lead, because Averill has 2 splits in a row. Unfortunate. Can Peter convert this? He has to. He doesn't. Oh, so I think Jaden actually wins that match straight out. Because all Jaden has to do is just... I think he already won now. Jaden has already won. So Jaden has knocked out Peter, and Jaden is going to go to the finals. So good news for BIS fans as well. So the Bowling Science Academy at least has one representative from their boys in the finals for the under 18 Masters Championship. Then it's between Jovis and Averill, because Jovis is in the lead. So Jaden reds it up there. Nice strike. So Jaden actually plays a pretty direct line. Actually, he plays a line that's almost similar to the girls, right? Coach Shireen is actually blocking the lane, but yeah, they're celebrating there, having a good chit chat, psyching out his spirit. So Jaden actually plays a more direct line, like he's sending the ball in between the third and fourth arrow, like bot 17 at the arrow zone. Obviously, his breakpoint is still the same around bot 10, and then letting ball transition at bot 10 and hook back into the pocket. And somehow that works for Jaden, either due to because his ball speed isn't particularly very fast. It's either due to the ball roll or maybe his selection of like a weaker ball, a less aggressive ball, that lets him play in that kind of a more direct line, which really works out for him, right? Because you can see the result is in the finals. So slashing his way through like the top 16 elimination. Okay, Peter finally gets a strike in frame 10, but it's too little too late there. And if you take a look at Jaden's line again, I believe he's playing something like this, like a more direct line. So going through around port 10. Okay, so they're still celebrating for Jovis there, because the match between Jovis and Averill is still too early to call. Averill can still come back from the deficit if he strikes home. And if Jovis makes like a split or misses a spare, that leaves the gap wide open for... Oh, so Jaden actually misses the shot to the right. Yeah, you can see that he missed way to the right of the line that I drew in red there on the lane. Yeah, but it's fine. Like he's still ending the game at 220. That's a very good score for this oiling pattern. Whoa, Averill, they're flirting with danger there. Ooh, Peter disappointed with his last right shot. Yeah. Ooh, Averill there almost got a split earlier. Can Jaden convert this? It's possible. Oh, he's gonna give it a try. Oh, almost converts it. Looks like Jaden's feeling pretty confident there. Feels confident. Okay, we're gonna just flash quick look back at the girls. So, oh, it's best of two matches because Natalie and Annalyn are still bowling. I see. So I thought it's best of one, so it's not. It's best of two. Okay, I was wrong. I was wrong. Ah, okay. Semifinals are two games, and grand final is two games as well. Okay, so we have a lot more bowling action to call here. It's too early to call. So if I'm not wrong, I think this the total of two games. I think that would be a fair way for this competition. Right, Jovi seems to find strike. Coach is there. Coach Shireen and Coach Sandra super excited. But it's way too early to call because if it's best of two, I mean, if it's total of two games, Averill can like find his line here, and can still like accumulate lots of strikes in order to come back in second match. He's not even out of the first match yet. Yep. So he managed to get the roll. It's close. I think Averill is close, but ooh, it's really loud. But Averill is like because from what I know of Averill's game, he typically plays his shot a little bit faster. He plays with more aggressive ball speed, and somehow in today's games, like today's semifinals, he's playing with a lot slower ball speed. I don't know whether it is a strategy between him and Coach Michael or just that what he feels like his ball doesn't have uh like enough time to hook back to the pocket. He's playing it a lot slower than what I usually see him play. Ooh, big mistake from Jovis there, missing to the right. Okay, then between the girls, Rachel here. Okay, so Jia Qingqian is Chia Jing Chia Jingqian has obviously won game one with a pretty commanding lead, right? So let's see if she strikes here. So for the girls, I think the line. Oh, she's playing a little bit inside out, like the 13 to 10 line. So she's dropping the ball at around 13. I think crossing the arrows at probably around 12 board and then having the break point at around board 10. So she has a little bit more aggressive ref rate and the ball can recover from that line. And it does well, right? Because she is actually scoring a lot better than Rachel here. I mean, not a lot better, but she's going to end the game above 200. Rachel is going to end her game at, I think, in the 180s when she makes this pair. So Xia Jingqian is about 20 pins ahead of Rachel. So it does show that she has the better pin carry there. So the match between, so I think Ong Lin actually won the first game by quite a fair bit, but starting with two splits is not good, and she crosses over for the third shot. Ooh, looks like her look has gone, but Natalie isn't pouncing on it. A missed spare in first frame, split in the second, and not an easy spare at all in the third frame as well. Because this spare is very easily choppable. Like it's very easy to chop this either to the left or to the right. Let's see if she okay goes diagonal across it. Oh, very good conversion. Very, very good conversion. So she shows how a spare should be made. Directly diagonal from the corner of the lane right to your targeted pins. That is so boys and girls, that's how a spare should be made. Because I've seen too many like bowlers going straight at like a spare, a double or a triple pin spare combination, right? And then chop it. So how you should make it is always maximize the angle on the lane by playing it as diagonal as possible. Okay, she chops that spare as well, so the baby split gets chopped. So just when we were talking about diagonal angles, the ideal line to play that baby split would be to go from the extreme left to the extreme right here. But earlier Chia Jingqian actually goes for a more direct line here, and she actually chops the pin on the left, which is pin 3. So just when we were talking about how to make a spare, we get a demonstration of how not to make a spare by playing too direct an angle. Okay, Ong Lin gets hyped up because that's first good ball reaction she has in 4 shots, right, in game 2. But Natalie isn't taking advantage of that. A little bit of a slower ball speed. She gets a carry, And going back to the boys. Oh, no. Going back to the boys here. So let's clear the screen. We didn't see the result between Avro and Jovis. I assume probably Jovis has a little bit of a lead. Because I can't see the pinfall, right? Mm-hmm. Hmm. Okay, Averill actually is playing a bit of an unorthodox line. He's playing quite a fair bit to the outside. He's dropping his ball around board 10, sending his ball all the way to around board 5 at the break point, and letting it transition there and letting it come back. In my opinion, that line that Averill is playing is a lot tougher because if you see I could analyze, we could take a look at pattern B, right? This is the youth division, right? So this is pattern B. The area that Averill is playing that I highlighted earlier is the board 10 to 5, right? So dropping the board at 10, going probably at board like 9 or 7 or 8 at the arrows, then sending all the way the ball to like board 5 at the breakpoint. Averill is actually playing a really flat area of the lane, which is here. Like you can see that this area is actually totally flat. So there's no allowance whatsoever for Averill. So it's not ideal, man. That strategy is really not ideal. Maybe it's just his comfort zone. Maybe it's a line that he's comfortable with, but that is not the way to go because if you don't have allowance, and your opponent has allowance by playing a more like an area of the lane that gives more room for error, then it's going to be an uphill battle, right? You have to throw every shot perfectly, and you miss just a tad bit, you don't get the result you want. But your opponent can miss by like half a board and still get a strike, and yeah, so it's going to be tough. But Averill has gotten 2 strikes from playing that extremely tough line, so maybe that is his comeback strategy, which is to play a line that is comfortable with, even though it's tactically very hard to carry on that particular line, but it's something that is comfortable with and something that he knows he can hit, and that may be the comeback that he needs against Jovis there. So Peter Gore is getting pretty good reaction against Jaden in this second game, and Jaden walks it out. Doesn't look like he gets a strike, gets a 9. It's a pin 10. Yeah, so the match is too close to call. Jaden actually celebrates way too early, right, by walking out that shot. Because Peter can actually strike home and actually cover back that deficit of pinfalls in game 1. So I'm not too sure about the tournament format. So I don't know whether it's total pinfalls or, but technically it should be, right? Because you're only playing 2 games, and in the event that if they draw, right, after, like if it's whoever wins 2 games first, then it should be a best of 3. But since the tournament schedule only states 2 games, very good spare from Jaden there. Since tournament schedule only states 2 games, I assume it's a total pinfalls between after 2 games. Davis goes for the conversion there, doesn't convert that split. And we go back to the ladies. So between Natalie and Ong Lin, it's pretty close. Pretty close. Natalie, after getting that strike in the 4th frame, doesn't get any in the 5th and the 6th frames. Ong Lin is also struggling with her ball reaction as well. But she is still trying her best to keep her game clean after that first 2 splits. So let's see what she does in this shot. Okay, she carries. I thought it was a little bit floaty. I thought the ball didn't react, but eventually it did get the result that she want. Oh, actually a pretty nice shot from Natalie there. I guess still a bit too far to right for her. So she doesn't have the ref rate to make the ball recover from that. To my eyes, it was a pretty good shot, right? It hit the breakpoint area at board around 9 to 10, but maybe she didn't have the ref rate to make the ball recover from there, and she couldn't get the strike. Oh, wow. Jishin gets a split from a pocket shot. That is pretty rare, pretty rare. I think she went high pocket and then she got split. So not too sure about the ball direction there. It could either be that angle is too sharp. That could be one reason, or the ball could be rolling out. So not 100% sure there, or maybe it's execution. Yeah, not too sure for the reason for that particular split. Okay, hear a bit of background noise here. We convert. Nope, she goes for the one pin. And Rachel here is like full go ahead to get a strike and then take advantage of the split that Chia Jingqian just got. Looks good. Carry, she gets a carry. So Rachel is coming back in that match. Okay, and going back to the boys. So Avril is the one that's, like I mentioned earlier, playing that pretty unorthodox line for this condition. Okay, so it actually goes back to the middle of the lane actually. So Avril doing well. So he actually goes back to the zone that I mentioned, right? Which is the 13 to 10 zone. So I think he lands his ball around 13 to 14. So his ball breaks at around the board 10 area. I think crosses the arrows at between second and third arrows, so probably at the 13 board at the arrows, or like 12 board at the arrows. Ball goes to around board 10 at the break point, and then goes for the strike. So it goes back to the middle part of the lane, and he gets the result, right? Avro is a pretty good bowler. Oh, Peter is going really deep with this shot. So let's take a look at Avro's shot on the right first. Oh, no, missing to the right. So I can't see his line properly from this angle. But earlier we see Peter playing between the fourth and fifth arrows. So it's like I think like 23, 22, 23 at the arrow zone. And he is trying to project it to like board 10 at the break points. But that's gonna be a tough call, right, from where he projects it. So if he needs to hit board 10 from there, he has to land his ball at like almost close to 30, right? Like 28, 29. Yeah, Jovis is pretty much a pretty dramatic bowler there, walking out almost every single shot. Yeah, this is a spare shot, but yeah, Peter is playing a pretty deep inside line there. But from what we've seen from Jaden's line so far, Jaden plays a more direct line, like staying in that third arrow zone, the zone between the third and fourth arrow. Oh, I think Jovi's just almost missed a spare. Yep. So Jaden sends it into third, fourth arrow, walks it out. Gets a pin 10. So Jaden really has to keep his nerves down, because if he misses his spares, right, Peter is going to catch up and overtake him in total score. Because Peter actually has a decent chance. He doesn't have a fantastic look, like he hasn't been chaining his strikes, but he has a decent chance of striking, and he does carry. So Peter is now shifting to the inside, playing a deeper line. I think he's playing around here, if I'm not wrong. His breakpoint actually has shifted inside as well. His breakpoint is about 13 board, 12 to 13 board at the breakpoint. He's playing a pretty deep inside line. But that is giving him a good look for his ball rotation, I guess. Oh. Yep, that's why I mentioned. So once Jaden misses his spares, that's it. And Peter has a strike, so Peter is gonna smell like like a shark smelling blood in the water, right? So if Peter strikes home, I think he can actually overtake Jaden, might overtake Jaden in terms of total score. Again, I'm not too sure of the format for this particular phase of the competition. Oh, yep, Avro super disappointed with himself there for missing that. Is that pin 4? That single pin 4. Yep, because like I mentioned, boys and girls, if you're watching this, he went for a pretty direct line to spare the pin 4. Ideally, you want to maximize your angle on the lane so that to maximize your room for error when hitting any spares, or whether single, double, or single pin, double pin, or triple pin. Yeah, so these are like the, I wouldn't say bad habits, but these are the, if you're not like maximizing your angles, you're not playing the, you don't have like a tip-top physical game, then these are the small errors that can come and bite you in critical moments of like important matches like this, right? Knockout matches where one pin, one spare, one strike, it all makes a difference. But these are the matches that are so dramatic because every small thing, subtle thing makes a difference. These are where the matches are most dramatic. Like it makes for really good TV finals. I mean, if the audience understands bowling, it makes for a good watch, right? So as an audience, you get really hyped up. Okay, so actually missed the final score between Lin and Natalie. Do they announce it? I think they will announce it only after all the other bowlers finish their matches. So Jia Chen. Oh, missing to the right a bit. Does she get the carry? No. Not enough. Yeah, I think she missed her shot just a tad bit at the break point to the right. I think it went a bit out. So the ball does look like it hits pocket, but maybe a bit lighter than what she wanted. And results in a pin 10 there. Rachel still playing her trusty second arrow. Ooh. Based on I couldn't see if she missed on the lane, but based on her body, like her body language, that she was really disappointed after with the execution of the shot. So yeah, seems like obviously she missed in. That means she missed to the right, and it went high. So not an easy spare by any means, because having 3 pins, it is very, very choppable. But ideally, to convert the spare, you want to maximize your angle, the right to the left to try and hit it. So Chia Chin now going for her spare. Okay, actually pretty confident in sparing there. Very, very confident, very accurate bowler. Good fundamentals as well. So I'm not really commenting on their physical game, but generally Chia Chen has really good physical game. So very consistent bowler. Okay, good conversion. But Rachel being a lefty actually opts to go for a more direct line, so she actually played this line to hit that spare, which is a bit more risky than the line that initially drew. Because going diagonal, maximizing your angle is actually the safer play. Boys side. Okay, boys side wrapping up. So let's pay attention to the boys. Jovis and Avro, as well as Peter and Jaden, are all going into the final frames. So Peter here with a pretty good game. He can actually strike home for 220, 227 actually. So already has 1 strike in frame 10. Oh, walks it out. Yeah. So Peter knows he has a chance to like reverse sweep Jaden here, to upset Jaden for the win. is not walking out this shot, doesn't feel that confident about it. And Avro is in the lead for this second game, but I don't know whether it's enough to overcome the total pinfalls. I assume it's total pinfalls over 2 games. Okay. Praise to the gods, he goes cross pocket, and his prayers were answered. He gets a strike there. That's from Avro. Alright, Peter going for flashy. So Peter is really clutch in like this frame 10 moments. I think he won, yeah. And Jaden actually lost the match. Yeah, so well done by Peter there, clutching out on that frame 10. Yep, so quick lingo update for any of you guys who heard Coach Yurin shout push but doesn't understand it. Basically, push means you want the ball to push further down the lane. You don't want the ball to hook that early. Because actually Jaden's shot that missed a little bit to the left, so you could see it too. So Coach Yurin was shouting for the ball to push. Okay, Jervis missed way to the right on this shot. Way to the right. His hand didn't project the direction that he wanted to target. But I think Jovis might still win if it's a total of 2 game pinfalls. No, that's going high, yeah. Okay, so it seems that Peter Cole goes to the finals. Among the girls, I think they're still fighting it out, and I believe Avro actually beats Jovis. I'm not super sure, because if we calculate their total score, I think it's really close. So we have to wait for the announcement, so I'll just leave the volume on. Okay, Rachel getting a split in 9th frame, but she's way ahead. So I think Rachel goes to the finals. Wait, did Chia Jingqian actually win the first game? Yeah, if Chia Jingqian strikes out here, she can end this game at 180. Which makes the total score between them quite close, right? Yeah, that's provided if Chia Jingqian strikes on this first shot in the 10th frame. Ooh. Whoa, Chia Jingqian went really high with that shot. Yeah. Actually quite fortunate that she didn't get a split. But then again, it's the second shot of the 10th frame, so it doesn't really matter. Oh no, it's the first shot of the 10th frame. It does matter. Because now it's a makeable spare for her. Okay, Rachel goes for straight down, Nightbot, gets a strike, happy. Because it is the first shot of frame 10, right? And with that, if she strikes home, she can end this game on 223. Yeah, I think if she ends it on 223, I think she shuts out Chia Jingqian. Oh, the pressure, man. The pressure must have gotten to Jingqian. Because I was saying that with her excellent fundamentals, she's probably an extremely good spare shooter. The pressure must have gotten to her with a crucial miss on the last shot of that frame 10 on that spare. Crucial miss on the single pin 10 spare. So I think Rachel has already won here, regardless of the result. Yeah, gets another strike. Wow. Yeah, so miss spares and so the mental pressure that Jing Qian probably imposed on herself on that last shot probably resulted in her missing that pin 10, because I'm sure with her form she would have easily spared that like probably 9 out of 10 times. Wait, are they switching off the streams for this? Okay. So let's tune in to SBF's main YouTube channel. Or is it my internet? Yo. Or is it YouTube? Oh no, I want to watch the finals, man. It's fire. YouTube is not loading. Yeah, YouTube is not loading. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna have to refresh this. Wow, if YouTube goes down when it's the finals. Oh, that's so sad. I don't think it's my internet. I think my internet's fine. Yeah, I'm still connected here. Oh, dang. Oh, dang. So it looks like YouTube is down. Okay, so unfortunately, whoever's watching this recording, like, I might have to, end this recording here and you don't get to watch the finals. But, you can always, so if the finals are recorded, you can always watch it on Singapore Bowling Federation's YouTube channel. There's always a VOD there. Okay, so, oh, it loads. Okay, it loads. Loads. We have a live stream. That is still struggling. Okay, looks like the live streams have gone off. And okay, so there's camera 3 is switched on for the finals, which is this one. Okay. Okay, so actually Jovis actually defeats Avril there, qualifies for the finals, going against Peter Koh. So a two-handed showdown for the boys there. And the girls, based on the name, looks like it's between Rachel and Ong Lilin. Yeah, because earlier Rachel did win that, because Jing Qian actually missed that crucial pin 10. So basically, based on the boys' side, even though I am indebted to Bowling is Science, I learned almost all my coaching skills from them. I would feel that Peter Koh actually has the advantage where it comes to a showdown against Jovis, because Jovis is not that experienced in top level play, while Peter has competed at least last year extensively. I've seen Peter's name very often among the top leaderboards. I believe he won one of the divisions in last year's youth championships as well. So Peter is an experienced competitor at the youth level, even at the open level. I think he joined the open as well, and you can see that by that in the previous match semi-finals against Jaden there, the way he clutched out and strike home on frame 10 shows his ability to perform under pressure. So Peter will have the advantage here against Jovis based on his experience. For the girls side, I'm not too sure because it is a lefty against righty. I'm not too familiar with either of the girls as well. So for the girls, I'm not too sure who has the advantage there. For the finals, it is again, I think a total pinfall again of 2 games. Ironically enough, there's somebody in the background in the live stream here shouting pin 10 spare, yeah. So spare your pin 10, guys. Spare your pin 10. Because pin 10 spares can absolutely make the difference at any level of play, high level, low level, any level of play. Spares make or break. Make or break a bowling match. Oh, that looks like a spare ball. So Jovis is practicing his pin 10s there. Well, it looks like Jovis is all mostly practicing his pin 10s. Which is very important, right? You really gotta get the feel of, you gotta really get confident at sparing your corner pins in a final showdown. Okay, so he threw a spare on his first shot and managed to get a strike on the second shot. His practice throw. So both of the boys here actually getting their strikes on their practice shot, so they do have a good look to the lane. I think they're more, like I mentioned, playing the middle part of the lane as well, playing the 4th arrow zone. And for Peter, he's depending on the transition, Peter is most likely to play the zone between the 4th and 5th arrow and sending out to a tight break point, probably 12 to 11 at the break point. So that seems like Peter's favorite line, something that is very good at playing. Then obviously for Rachel is our lefty here. She's going for probably, I think from the previous semi-finals, right? She was playing board 9 straight down. So just slightly left of the second arrow, board 9 straight down. And that line actually gives her a little bit of miss room to the inside. If she misses to the right, Like, rather than board 9, if she hits board 10, it will go direct into the zone where the slope on the oil pattern. Okay, so they just announced the, that was the announcement to start the finals, I think. So for Rachel, she actually playing like board 9 straight down. And then if she misses a bit to the inside, right? If a ball like hits board 10 at the arrows, she'll go into the zone, the slope of the oiling pattern there. Let's take a look here. She'll go into the slope of the oiling pattern here. And this will give her allowance because the ball will still stay due to the ticker oil in the middle. And she will probably still hit the head pin. For Onlin, I think she's gonna play the 13 to 10 line, like what I predicted a lot of the girls would do. Oh, Jovis goes for a pretty direct line straight up. So rather than playing the 4th arrow, actually Jovis plays about board 18 at the arrows, right? So his ball dropped at about 20. Then it actually went 18 at the arrow zone, something like around there. Went to about 11 at the break point. 11, 12 at the break point, then went into the pocket. But he's throwing it a lot faster, I think from what I see of Jovi's shot. Throwing it faster, keeping it tight, which I think might be a pretty good strategy for this oil pattern. But for this oil pattern, you really want to keep your lines tight. Oh, pin 10 spare, like one of the audience mentioned during the live stream earlier. Pin 10 spare. So missing a spares at any level, crucial. I can see is obviously disappointed. So Jovis is a person, I mean, I've not really coached him, but I do know him from my time at Bowling Science. So he is a person that wears his emotions on his sleeve, so to say. So he's obviously very disappointed at that. Gets him down, so he has to get himself up. Peter also playing a pretty tight line, but doesn't seem to work out for him. So Peter started with almost the exact same line that Jovis was playing earlier. Like sending the ball around 18, 19 at the arrows. Going out to a tighter break point at about 11 to 12. But doesn't seem to work, his ball overhooks. So I think for Peter, his ideal line is still to play at least the 4th arrow or between the 4th and 5th arrow. Like probably board 20 or board 22 at the arrow zone. And then sending it out to that 10 to 11 board at the break point. So that should be the ideal line for Peter. Pick it up? No. Chops it. So like I mentioned, this pin combination is not an easy spare at all, and if you're not maximizing your angles left to right, it's actually quite easy to chop that spare, as Peter has shown. Yep, and Peter's coach there, giving him probably the advice that I was talking about, asking him to play a little bit deeper, most likely. Because as a coach, that is the the obvious transition, the obvious line to play, obvious move to make after seeing the first shot from Peter go high. Yeah, he went high, right? Yeah, went high into the pocket, almost overhooked in the cross pocket. Okay, actually Jovis has a pretty good look. As long as he can keep up his ball speed, if he doesn't slow down his ball speed, he can play that tighter line and get pretty nice ball reaction from that. And as long as he can make his spares, I guess. The sparing is so important. Yep, so he just play the center part of the lane. Doesn't get the reaction that you want, but at least he gets a nice look to the pocket. So like I mentioned, Peter should be playing that line at the start for his first shot. So going through that 4th arrow, sending out to about, he's actually playing a tighter break point, about 11 to 12 at the break point, and then going into the pocket. Whereby ideally I think Peter should be playing a little bit further at the break point, like he should be aiming for probably board 10 at the break point. But still at the arrow zone, still going through like either 20 or 22 at the arrow zone. That's a good spare there. Rachel's body language says it all when she released that spare shot. Yep, she knew she missed her target and she missed that pin 10 spare. It's really unfortunate to see pin 10s so many missed spares at like what is considered the highest level for Singapore youth bowling, because spares are really important. So I mean, if I had a chance to drill like tournament preparation, we'll be shooting like hundreds of spares every single day. Misses to the right a bit. Okay, so gets the carry. I think Jovis missed to the right a bit at the arrow zone, because his ball went but a bit further out, like around board 10 at breakpoint, but he still recovered. He still got this right. So I was saying that this line that Jovis is playing is actually pretty good when combined with his higher ball speed, because it does have some room for error. Like missing to the right, the ball recovers. If he hits the line that he wants, he gets a strike. Miss to the right, he gets a strike, right? So we'll see how long this stays and whether that can cover up Jovis' missed pin 10 spare there. So this time Peter sends it a bit further to the right at the breakpoint. I can't really see it because his finishing position was blocking it, but based on when it crossed the lanes, I think he hit like probably 19 at the arrow zone. So assuming just from the angle when it crossed the arrow zone, I'm thinking that the prop was projected more to the right, and that gave him the good result. Because I think for Peter, ideally he has to hit that board 10 area at the breakpoint. So that shot from Jovis looks a bit slower, right? A bit slower than his previous 3 shots. And that didn't give him the result that he wanted. So for Jovis now, he actually has a good look, but it's his execution. Let's see whether he can spare this. Okay, good. So he picks up that's a pin 2 spare, I believe. Ooh, Rachel almost missing that. It's double pin spare there. Almost chopping the pin 7, but she does get it. So between the girls, it's still a close match. Actually, between the boys, it's also a close match as well, because none of them are running away this early in the game. Because we don't have like anybody with like 4 strikes or something. So this is a total of 2 games, I believe, for the grand finals. So it is gonna take some time before we get close to knowing who's in the lead. Probably by the end of first game, I guess. But that's a good thing about 2 game finals, is that even if you do badly on the first game, there's always a chance that you can recover on the second game. So the key to winning obviously is to score as high as you can for both games. Which is like not rocket science, but yeah. Yep, Rachel getting a strike there. So for Rachel's line, she has a little bit of missed room to the right. I think for that particular shot, she missed just a tad bit to the right actually. Because from my angle here, it seems to me she missed a little bit to the right, but the ball held her line and she got that strike. So for Jovis here, I think the key is keeping up his ball speed. Because he needs to keep that ball speed fast in order to get that nice ball reaction for that strike. For that particular line that he's playing, because he is playing a much tighter line as compared to Peter. And Peter is Co-curricular for people who are confused. And I'll probably refer to him as 之前, it'll be easier because that's his name listed in the score sheet there. Okay, and the pin 10, the demon of the pin 10 comes up against Jovis again, who missed it in frame 1. So let's see if he can convert it this time. Okay, Lilin there with a good strike. Yeah, so it's really close among the girls. So both girls have clean, not clean games. Rachel actually missed the pin 7, which she was really disappointed with. But Lilin actually has a clean game. Oh, looks like a really good shot from Rachel there. Oh. So when she actually hits a target, she doesn't get the carry that she wants actually. But anyway, that shot from Rachel looks a little bit faster than... Oh no, Jovis misses it again. The demon of that pin 10. And he misses it by a lot as well. He missed it by like a whole 5 boards. Yep, so like I mentioned, the pressure, like Co-curricular here, which Peter Co-curricular actually has the advantage in these finals because he's just a more experienced competitive bowler. He has achieved good success in last year's youth championships as well as the nationals. So more experience as compared to Jovis. I think this is the first finals that Jovis has reached. So the pressure is actually getting to Jovis here. And the pressure is all self-inflicted as well, right? Because it's all in the athlete's own minds. So you can see that Peter is a lot more, Co-curricular here is a lot more calm and composed. Gets a strike. Yep. So capitalizes on Jovis's mistake, missing that second pin 10 spare. Yeah, so so Jovis's tight line actually comes and bite him in the ass now, so to say, because by playing that tight line, there's always a chance that his ball overhooks, right? And this time his ball does overhook finally after like 5 shots on this pair of lanes, and it goes high, giving him a split that he cannot convert. So another open frame. And Jovis is in big deficit now. So that particular line, I don't think is that ideal now for this, like this broken down lane condition, because this is not the fresh. It has been bowled by several bowlers for the Masters so far. So I feel like playing a deeper line, like riding on the thicker oil in the middle, sending your ball out to transition at the break point, it should be the safer way to go. And camera is... Why is it being shifted? We want to watch the girls. I think somebody kicked the camera by mistake, most likely. Are they starting a second live stream for the girls? I don't think so. Okay, so anyway, the viewers, please leave your comments if you feel like you want me to do this like on a live stream basis, because I mean, when I'm recording this, obviously I'm watching the live stream from Singapore Bowling Federation, so I might as well do this on a live stream basis, which is, I guess, maybe probably easier for me logistics wise as well, because I don't have to upload. And that will be a little bit more interactive. If anyone comes into the live stream, they can post questions and I can answer them. So just plug for my own services. So obviously I'm a bowling coach, actively coaching as well. So if anybody is looking for lessons to improve their bowling game, especially their physical game, or even at a higher level, their mental game, their strategic lane play, and so on, feel free to contact me. My contact information, such as my phone number, will be in the video description, so you can contact me via there. Okay, so Jovis gets a strike there. So good news actually for Jovis is that this is a 2-game total finals, so Jovis does have time to recover even after he missed those 2 single pin 10s. That's provided Peter Ko Ziqian here, Peter Ko Ziqian here doesn't run away with his scores in both game 1 and game 2, which he absolutely can do. Yeah, I've just noticed that actually Ziqian has Peter on his shirt, so yeah, so it's not that confusing if I refer to him as Peter Ko. Oh, Micho misses a bit to the inside again, but like I mentioned, she has some room for error on the inside. Like if she misses to the right, she will still hit headpin because her ball travels straight into that slope in the oil pattern, so that gives her some room for error. But it's still not an easy spare for her, it's still considered a baby split. So Peter actually playing a pretty tight line there, but still gets a result. Like saying he gets a strike, because I think the previous line from Peter actually played something like this. Looking back at it, actually is decent because he still hits that board 10 break point, I guess. Because I think the secret to striking here is hitting that board 10 break point. Nice spare from Rachel there. Excellent conversion. She's hyped up about it. Jovis still playing that tight line. Okay. Well, gets strike there. So I think the shot that it split is probably just due to his hand. I think hand position and execution. Because even for that shot that split earlier, the ball speed was actually fast, but the ball still overhooked. So maybe the execution is hands there in its release. Oh, Peter now going deeper actually. So I think he missed, because originally Peter was actually playing between board third and fourth arrow at the arrows. Then for this shot, he actually sent his ball through board fourth and fifth arrow, but he still got the pocket. So I think he missed, and the balls actually stayed there. So actually Peter has a pretty good room for error. If he can miss by like 3 boards and still hit the pocket, so that's actually pretty good news for Peter. He actually has very good luck. Yeah, I think Peter missed a good like 4 boards to the left actually. But his projection angle was still the same, so he still manages to get a pocket there. Hey, Lillian actually doing really good. So that's a double in the 10th frame. So she can actually crush Rachel with a first game score of about 229 if she strikes home, if she strikes on the last shot. The best Rachel can do now, I think Rachel has struck on the first frame, is a 196 if I'm reading the score correctly. Oh, Jovis missing to the right. Yep. So he sends his ball too far out to the right, because Jovis is actually looking to play a tighter line, but that ball, that early shot that he sent, like went all the way close to like board 6, almost board 5 at the break point, so that's way too far right. So obviously he doesn't recover from that area, because if looking back at the lane pattern, at the oil pattern, right? If you're sending a ball out to this zone like board 5, it's not coming back because this area is totally flat. As in the oil there is totally flat. So it's not dry enough for the ball to recover if you miss that far to the right. Good spare there. Couldn't really see the line, didn't really pay attention to the line that Peter played, but I think he hit around the zone that he wants. So from my observation, the last few shots, Peter isn't that consistently accurate at where his ball ends up at the arrow zone, but he is hitting that zone that is near to the near to the center arrow, which is the 4th arrow. So it is giving him some room for error. Oh, then there mis-execution, I think. It's either she missed too far to the right or she lost the ball at the bottom of release, because it looks like the ball just leaked and it didn't recover. Leaked to the right and didn't recover. Oop. He's happy with that. That's very fortunate. Sleeper conversion there. So with that, actually, the best Peter can do down is 181. And if you look at Jovi's score, he could actually also do 181 if he gets a strike nice back. So I know both the bowlers are still pretty close, even though Jovis missed 2 pin 10 spares. Look at the audience reaction. That ooh. Yep, that looks like a very nice shot from Peter there. Yep, gets a strike. So it goes directly over the 4th arrow there at the arrow zone. Yeah, I think Peter feels that he should be further inside, which I do agree. Like, as the match goes on, he probably has to go further left to sort of like play his own transition, because he's the only one that's playing that line, since Jovis isn't overlapping him there. Finally, Jovis makes a pin 10 spare. Finally in this game. Out of 3 attempts, but that's going to give him a bout of confidence. So he can still end the game at 180. That just keeps him 1 pin behind Peter there. So the match is still very, very close. I didn't see the ending between Rachel and Lilin, but I remember Lilin actually having the lead there in game 1. So Rachel has to beat Lilin by quite a fair bit in game 2 in order to win the finals. Right, and Jovis still keeping with his tight line here. So the line that Jovis is playing is actually somewhere around here, right? He's actually playing it between 3rd and 4th arrow, but his breakpoint is actually pretty tight, right? He's sending it something like this, in between 3rd and 4th arrow, sending it out to like board 11, 12 at the breakpoint. But I think in order for him to do that, it's either using a weaker ball, or obviously he has higher ball speed as compared to Peter. But maybe he's also doing a lot more forward rotation with his release. Wow, and Rachel skipping and jumping there with us, right? Really happy. So actually Rachel's line is kind of a little bit diagonal, right? She's no longer playing board 9 straight down. She's going something like 8-9, like dropping the ball at 8, hitting 9 at the arrow zone, and then the ball going a little bit diagonal towards the pocket there. Okay, so like I mentioned earlier, Peter actually has a decent room for error, because in that previous shot, it looks like he got his arrow target correct, but where his ball landed, it was pretty much very, very tight, right? Like, his ball landed at like 22, then he hit 20 at the arrows, so it didn't really get projected out onto the breakpoint that far. Like, he hit like probably 15 at the breakpoint, but the ball still stayed and strike. So Peter does have a decent room for error there. Okay, pretty good execution from Jovis. Oh, unfortunate with that. So that means that the ball actually kind of entered the pocket at too sharp an angle. It hooked so sharply that it missed touching pin 9, and a single pin 9 spare there. Okay, good spare from Jovis there. Once it left his hands, it looked like it was on target. Rachel there taking a deep breath. You can see her shoulders shrug up and down, preparing herself for the execution. Looks like she missed to the right again. Oh, now this is going to be a really difficult spare for Rachel here. There are 3 pins among here, not just 2. So there's a sleeper, which is the 2-8 sleeper, as well as there's a pin 7 as well. So it's a 2-7-8, and that is going to be a difficult spare conversion for Rachel there. Peter with another strike. Oh, Peter's game looking good. Because I think Peter just have a decent room for error. Like he can miss a little bit on the arrows, still strike. Can miss a little bit on the ball landing zone on his release point and still strike. It's like good execution again. Oh, and still getting a pin 10. So for Jovis, it looks like the entry angle isn't as ideal, right? Like he's been getting his previous shot on this lane actually overhooked and he's left pin 9. But now his shot on the left lane actually doesn't hook enough, doesn't get enough entry angle, and it leaves pin 10. So let's see if he can convert that. He misses again, misses pin 10 again. So out of 4 attempts, he misses 3 of it. They look like a shot that maybe went a little bit too far to the right. Because based on the body language that Peter was doing, like he was asking his ball to come back. Maybe I think he sent it a bit further than what he would like it to go. Oh, Peter misses that single pin. That was kind of a weird decision by Peter to play this line for that single pin spare. So Peter tried to go direct at that single pin, which is the pin 2, I think. But ideally, as a bowling coach, like I mentioned many times before, the ideal line is to go diagonal, even for a pin 2. So you can see that small miss there, I think he probably just missed his target a little bit, because by going by this direct line, you actually don't get a lot of room for error for hitting that spare. Ooh, Rachel narrowly escapes there, but only Lin. Can't see her full name now. The screen, like the camera doesn't capture it anymore. But I think it's Ong Li Lin. Actually, Ong Li Lin has a pretty commanding lead, I think. No, actually, Rachel does have the lead for this particular game, actually. It's a 9. Lin actually has a strike, right, in her frame 6, so it's still pretty close. But actually, Lilin won the previous game 1. So if Lilin can at least tie Rachel in this game 2, she's going to win the championship. Oh, I think Rachel misses this pair. Yep, she does. Once he left her hand, I knew something was wrong. Looks like the projection and the angle was wrong. Okay. So, Rachel with that pin 7 miss. Again, not maximizing the angle, right? Because Rachel was playing it tight like this. So not maximizing the angle like this. Spare pin 7. And Jovis with another miss. There, it was sleeper. He managed to convert it. Okay, Lillian with another 9. So she can convert that pin 10 spare. Should be well in the lead to winning the championship. Oh, Peter playing a bit of a deeper line. Yeah, so that's a line that I think Peter should have been playing from the start, which is to drop the ball around at least 25 to 26, crossing about board 22 at the arrows, and then sending ball out to probably about 12 or 11 at the break point, heading lane transition, and then going back into the pocket. So I think that gives the best look for Peter. But Peter is actually running away here because Jovis isn't converting his spares, so leaving open frames, and Peter is playing a clean game. Not really a clean game, he did miss a single pin spare. But as long as Peter keeps it clean for the rest of the game, he should be winning this championship. Yep, that looks like a good line from Peter there. Ooh, doesn't carry, walks it out. He walks out. That is the longest walkout I've ever seen a bowler in Singapore too. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost 6 lanes. He walked 4.5 lanes. That was the longest walkout ever, man. We have it on video, guys and girls. We have it on video. Longest walkout. Dang, and that wasn't even the last shot of this game. That was one hell of a walkout. And which he didn't get a strike. Yeah, but it was a pretty good shot from Peter. I think it was one of his best looks. One of his better shots. Oh, gets it. So I don't really like Peter's spare lines here. I think it's not wide enough because for that pin 7, he was going pretty tight this way as well. Almost missing that pin 7. It's not really maximizing the lane by playing across, diagonally across the lane for his spares. Okay, but then there was another strike. I think wraps up. So Rachel has gotten 2 strikes. But Lillian isn't letting up her score as well. Oh, Jovis' shot looks slow. Yeah, this shot looks a lot slower. Yeah, and he gets a split. With another strike, so she has a turkey. Things still kind of close between the girls. But if Lillian strikes on frame 10, I think she shuts out Rachel, right? Oh no, she doesn't strike out Rachel. Actually, Rachel can strike home for 220s, right? So if Rachel strikes home, she gets in the 220s. If Lillian strikes home, oh wow, Lillian clutched there with the frame 10 strike. Clutch. She absolutely needed to strike home to put the pressure on Rachel. And now Rachel needs to strike on her frame 10. Okay, for the boys match, it's more or less decided that Peter is winning this game. And winning the finals because too many open frames from Jovis. But for the girls, it's really tight as well. Like, can Rachel keep the pressure up with a strike here? It's a good shot by Rachel. Oh, she gets it. Absolute masterclass performance from the 2 girls there. She gets it. It's her favorite line, right? The 8-9 line. Thinks she drops the ball at board 8. At the release point, goes through the arrow zone at board 9, then goes a little bit diagonally into the pocket, to the 1-2 pocket. Okay, Lilin with a second shot on frame 10. Gets a strike. I think Lilin wins it. Yeah, I think she wins it. It's going to be close, she wins it. But because with her lead in game 1, I'm not sure, but I think she wins it. But she's in 2-5, she's in the 2-10s, while Rachel is in the 2-20s if she strikes a shot. But I think Lilin has more than a 10-pin lead in game 1, so I think Lilin wins this. Oh, Rachel doesn't strike, so yes, the champion is on Lilin there. And for the boys, champion will be Peter Core. Yep, another split. Yeah, so that's the disadvantage of playing like Jovis's line, because he isn't keeping up with the transition. So we can talk about Jovis's mistakes here. Because he's playing this really tight line, right? Which is going through in between 3rd and 4th arrow. His breakpoint is also pretty tight, like around board 11 to 12, right? And the problem when the front part of the oil dries up, his ball is going to overhook even with his high ball speed. So he has to actually transition earlier to play like the 4th arrow, and then or even further in between the 4th and 5th arrow. And probably aiming for that exact same breakpoint at probably like 11 to 12 board. So Jovis just isn't really shifting his feet, he's just trying to execute the best that he can to hit the same target, but isn't keeping up the lane transition. And I don't think he did any ball change as well, because he was quite troubled with his spare troubles. Like he couldn't hit 3 out of the 4 pin 10s that he got in 2 games. And he missed other single pins as well, like another miss a sleeper and stuff like that. So his mind was too bogged down by all the missed pairs that he wasn't really paying attention to the lane transition. While Peter has been moving deeper and deeper in. So you can see, even though Peter doesn't get the strike, his shots aren't leaving splits, right? So he has been moving deeper and deeper in, and Peter is now, when he started, like the first shot, he was playing in between 3rd and 4th arrow, and then he shifted to play the 4th arrow, and now he's playing in between the 4th and 5th arrows, like what I predicted he would do earlier, sending his ball out to about 11 to 12 at the break point, so about 11 at the break point, and letting it come back into the pocket. And this has given like Peter a better look, even though he isn't getting the strikes like leaving pin 10s, but it's still sparable for him. He isn't getting the splits that Jovis is getting. Oh, I think he misses that pin 10. Yep, misses. He misses to the left. But even with that miss, he still wins because Jovis just cannot catch up. Now he sends it. So now Jovis sends it a bit to the right and it doesn't recover. Yeah, because of the ball speed that he's playing, and I think the rotation that he's putting in the ball, he's putting a lot more forward rotation in order to play that direct line. It doesn't recover when it misses to the right. But pretty unfortunate to see a lot of misspare from the boys. So, I mean, it is true that for two-handers, it is a lot harder to hit their spares. Because their spare ball typically hooks with the amount of rev rate they put on the spare ball as compared to one-handers. But still, I mean, with the amount of missed spares, it is a lot of wasted opportunity and wasted pinfall as well. So like I mentioned, if I were ever to prepare a training camp for bowlers who are like approaching big tournaments, I will have them hit hundreds of spares every single day, right? Hundreds of single pin spares like pin 10s, pin 7s, as well as sleepers. Like the common spares like the 3-6-10 combinations and stuff like that. Well, so Like Peter's body language says he's totally disappointed with the shot. No, no, but somehow I still strike. Like, I totally fubbed it, but I still strike. So yeah, Peter does have a decent room for error. Yeah, but anyway, for the boys' match, it is actually a foregone conclusion that with that strike in the 8th frame actually, like Peter has already solidified his position as champion here for the under 18 Masters. Jovis is still playing that line. Yep, now he overhooks. So you can see that Jovis, like I mentioned, isn't keeping up with the transition, isn't shifting left, isn't moving his feet, and I didn't notice him doing any ball change. So I think Coach Sandra is just telling him to pick up the spares, just for his own confidence, finish up the match. Barely makes it. Oh man, Joe is really struggling with his spares like in this finals. Unfortunate, like bad experience for him, but it goes to show, like for him, as well as for anyone who's watching the game, it goes to show how important sparing is, right? Like it's just win or loses. It wins games for you and loses games for you if you don't spare. Simple as that. You can strike all you want in the world, but if you can't spare, then can't win. So, oh man, he does that celebration just to nail in the coffin there. So that was a little, that wasn't actually that bad of a shot. Like maybe he did lose his balance, but it actually hit like where he wanted on the arrow zone, and it does go to where he wanted the ball to go at the breakpoint, which is around like 11, 10 to like 12 at the breakpoint there. So it actually wasn't that bad a shot. Like Jovis, yeah, he's still gonna play that line. Yep, and he tries sending the ball a bit to the right this time. The ball doesn't recover. Yeah, so disappointing final game from Jovis here is gonna end the game with I think 120s, really low game. So that's gonna haunt him for quite a while. So it'll be really up to him on how he can overcome that, the PTSD, so to say, of scoring a low game in the finals, which happens to, I think, every competitor if they're going for their first finals. Right, opposing coach there giving him good words, probably giving him words of encouragement. It's a rough loss, no matter what. Going cross pocket and strike. Nope. Yeah, so Peter missed his target at the arrow zone to the left there, and the ball still kind of hit pin, cross pocket. So hit pin, still an easy spare for Peter there. And I believe for the girls, so just waiting for the announcement. I think Ong Lin actually won the under 18 Masters for the girls. Ong Lin actually a spectacular performance. Pretty unfortunate that we can't see more of the ladies lanes there because the camera was kind of, I think, kicked a little bit, like angled a bit to the left. So, like I predicted earlier, I think the favorite here between the showdown between Jovis and Peter was that Peter was going to be a favorite and Jovis was going to be the underdog. And the favorite won here. So that's a 190 from Peter. And oh, they cut the stream. Wow, immediately. They didn't even wait for the announcement. Wait, it's my computer lagging, right? Oh man, my whole Chrome is lagging. Oh no, it's not lagging. I just didn't enable my Epic Pen. Okay, so that's it for the so-called commentary and analysis of the under 18 Masters step ladder semi-finals, right, and finals. And we will see you guys next time.